we go to our first agenda item, we have minutes. I saw them come in just moments ago. Thank you so much, Susan, for delivering those. Do you want to pull them up? Should we just look at them together? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen and show all windows. I'll try that. That could be a little dangerous. Hold on. Let me see if I can just pull them up and then share them.
Sorry.
Hold on. Get over to my drive. Okay, here they are. Now I should be able to. I'm not seeing them come up on the stuff that I can share. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, there's a lot more here.
I can pull them if you need me to. I have them on my desktop.
It's crazy that, yeah, for some reason they're not showing on my desktop, even though I pulled them up just a second ago.
Do you want me to try?
Hold on. Like, I feel as if I should be able to get this. Oh, wait, I think I see them. I think this is them.
Yes.
Yay. All right. A technology victory. Yeah. So let's see. Our meeting started at 7:04 last time, and we approved minutes.
Twice over.
Oh, 2 minutes. Yeah. Wow. Geez. Okay. And then we heard from this woman, Amanda Meredith, about Eastern Insurance. And if you need me to make this bigger, I'm happy to try and like inflate the font or something. But essentially this set of bullets catalogs what she said about Eastern Insurance taking over for, what was the company again? Northbridge Insurance, and the fact that they were replacing the signs on the building. And then John was empowered to send a letter to the planning board on behalf of our committee saying that we approved that Eastern Insurance could be a formula business in West Concord Junction.
Yes. Thank you, John, for taking that on. And thanks everyone who provided comments.
No problem.
It was a good letter.
Okay, then next we heard from Rick Eifler about the planned residential development at 365 Com Ave, which is essentially like a 2-house residential development, planned residential development. The second of the 2 houses is going to be a new one, a new 2-bedroom house, 1,100 square feet, income restricted, etc. So you can kind of like read through all the things that I caught from our conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Jeff, thank you also for drafting this letter. It was a letter heavy meeting. Thank you for taking that on. And thanks everyone who provided comments. This was a good letter too.
Yeah.
Wasn't quite as good as John's, but I tried. Thank you.
I thought it was a tie.
It's a high bar.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the 2-house planned residential development, and then we talked about setting up the meeting for quick win bike and pedestrian improvements. I guess I should change that to pedestrian. And we planned that. I left the original date in since we had decided on a date that then was rained out. But so I think I mentioned it was like 9/24 at 11:30. So we had talked a little bit about what our walk around would entail, and talked about some things that we already had kind of on our short list.
Yep.
Yep. Talked about signage. Put pedestrian again.
Okay. Yep.
Pedestrian safety walk around.
Great.
All right. And then finally, we heard a little bit about Giroux, the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Bridge, plus the other things that are happening at Giroux. And Marcia gave us an update of like when the bridge will open, and then also what's happening over at Warner's Pond.
Yep.
And then during the liaison reports, I think I wrote this down as ED, like maybe economic development, but there is no committee that I see on the list of town committees. And so I was thinking maybe it's economic vitality, but does anybody know?
It was economic vitality.
Oh, it was. Okay. There we go. Okay, and then this was just kind of a rundown of what was happening coming up in September.
I think the ED committee would be Economic
Oh, yeah.
Vitality.
Yep.
Committee as well. And
Waiting
Porch
for survey
Fest.
results. Yeah, Porch Fest, which was amazing.
That was great. All right. Any comments, edits, questions on minutes?
I move to approve.
I second that motion.
Awesome. So I guess I will send these over to you, Amy, to have them posted, or
Yeah,
how
I
does that
think
work?
we have to do a roll call vote to officially
Oh,
approve them.
Okay.
I see Marcia nodding. Yes. Okay, so we have a motion on the table to approve our September minutes. Out of curiosity, if someone has put the motion on the table and someone has seconded it, do they also vote?
Yes.
Roll call vote? Yes. Okay, so Jeff, how do you vote? Do you vote to approve?
I vote to approve.
Okay. Amy Robinson,
Approve.
Susan,
Approve.
Anne,
Approve.
John,
Yep.
and I also vote to approve. So hooray, the September minutes are unanimously approved. Thank you, Susan, for doing those.
You're welcome.
Okay. And then we have next on our agenda is the Junction Village Open Space, and we have an illustrious guest and WCAC alum Carleen Hempel here to give us an update on where that process is.
Hello, everyone. So nice to see you. I know some of you, but not all of you, but I'm so grateful to be here. I wanted to come and talk to you. We're having a public forum tomorrow, and I know that Amy so generously last week sent along the agenda and the sort of run up to that. But in advance of that, I wanted to speak with you about what we've been working on. And ultimately, my goal is to solicit your support for this in the form of a letter. I heard you mentioning letters, and I remember that as that was one of my primary roles when I was on the WCAC, chief letter writer, in advance of our November hearings before the CPC. So, so sorry for the tight turnaround. We have been working, as a little bit of background, we have been working with a landscape architecture firm called Places for about 6 months. And about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we saw our first renderings of 3 different concepts. We did evidence-based visits, as Anne would like to hear. We sent pictures, we did our research. We whittled those to 2, and those are what I'm going to show you now. We're now sort of showing these to the public, and I'm going to walk you through them. What this is, for those who don't know, is this is about 6.5 acres of land spread into sort of 2 parcels. It'll be very clear in a minute when I show you the scheme. At the end of Winthrop Street, across from the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, with borders of the Assabet River as it bends and goes into the village, and MCI Correctional Institute on the other side of it, so that you can visualize this. In the middle of this 12-ish acres of property will be what's called Christopher Heights at Junction Village, which is an 83-unit affordable assisted living facility. Owned by the CHDC, but it will be built and operated by Grantham. This is something that is just context for you. We have nothing to do with the approval process or what's happening with that. That's sort of long been in the works. But as part of that, that sort of land coming into the sort of laps of the CHDC, there's a conservation restriction, but some of that land will be made fully public, and it's an incredible opportunity for us for many reasons. One is, all of a sudden we're going to have 6.5 acres of open, usable space right essentially in the heart of the village. So it's sort of unheard of to suddenly be given this opportunity. We see it as sort of almost a necklace with some of the other public spaces that we're developing. Warner's, the Giroux land at Warner's Pond is just a hop and skip from this property. Of course, Junction Park, I'm pointing because it's down the street from my house, Junction Park, and of course the Tea Cakes Plaza. So there's all these really great public spaces that, that just have sort of emerged really in the last few years, and this will be a gem among them. Also, we had a large public forum in the summer and learned that this site has enormous historical significance. And I don't know if any of you attended that forum. I see Amy nodding. It was really startling to understand the history of this site as both it was called the Great Encampment, as a mustering site pre-Civil War. 100,000 people were there to watch the training of and rallying of those who would be marching off or going off to the Civil War. And we also learned about the incredible importance of the prison and what was once a reformatory and is now a prison, the incredible importance that has served to West Concord as an economic engine, but also as a very progressive place, and it remains so today. And in addition, we've learned of some of the very interesting, Malcolm X was there, and in his time there actually converted to Islam. And also some other interesting sort of things that happened over the course of the many years that reformatory and prison has been in place. The final thing that I want to mention to you before we get into the actual scheme is we also want to honor the fact that this is a designated wild and scenic river, the Assabet, and that's it's an incredibly beautiful vista from that spot. If you haven't been there, it's hard to imagine because you're thinking what's there. It's sort of scrub brush. There's the prison, but it's really a beautiful vista as you look down with tremendous mature tree growth. And these are some of the things we want to capitalize on. So this is context for you to be able to understand what I'm going to show you. Marcia's in the room, and Marcia's been with us for every blessed second and of all of this. So if I get something wrong or I lack some context, I'm sure she'll be able to jump in and help us. Amy, do I have the right to share screen?
I think
It
so.
looks like
Marcia's
I
the
do.
keeper of the power, but I think
Yes.
so.
It looks like I do. So I'm going to share one, and then I'm going to share another with you. We very specifically made them different from each other so that that you and people in the public would have something to choose from. Please understand that these are not set in stone, and it's not one or the other. It can be components of both. There could be additions to either. What we plan to do is have obviously our public forum tomorrow night, and then come again to another public forum in January, February with one plan that hopefully is a collection of comments and thoughts from people based on these two. So just to orient you, here's Winthrop Street coming here. So Com Ave is down here. Amy, can you see my cursor moving around? Okay. So Com Ave is down here. The Rotary is up somewhere up here. Here's Winthrop Street coming in, right? Neshoba Brook Bakery is somewhere over here. And in the middle here will be, and it's very faint, but this will be the development, the 83 unit affordable assisted living facility, so that you understand. So there's this wedge on this side. Right now, there's nothing there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about this, which is what we're going to call the meadow right now. And then I'll go over and talk about this, which is what I'll call the park. Okay. So the idea here is in what is just sort of dirt and, actually sand and weeds here. It's pretty flat. There's some debris there. We would like to make this an entrance to the park, the parkland. And so right off the Bruce Freeman rail trail, the idea here is this is sort of a gathering place, circular pavers. We're thinking of having words that represent some of the important things that we want to put forth. Hope could be, carved into the stone that will be this sort of circular gathering place. Hope, learn, embrace, that these are some of the words that we're talking about. Where you see this tan color, we would like to install pollinator plants. One of our goals is to replenish some of the pollinator habitat that's been lost just in general over the years. We see these as both reflection spaces and educational spaces. So we would have interpretive panels in these little areas. These would also be designated with some sort of paver, some pervious paver material. One of these would give people information about the mustering site, the great encampment site that we talked about, and another would give important information about the role that this reformatory and prison, since the Correctional Institute, has played in the history of West Concord until today. These are intended to be trees that sort of allow for reflection spaces that shade these areas. These are generally going to be, there's no trees there. There's nothing planted there now. So these will all be shade trees. We're thinking of things like what's called a pin oak and I just learned that a Freeman maple, which is a hybrid between a red and a silver maple. So it's hardy, it's sturdy, it's robust, but it also has the brilliant red and yellow color that we all love in the fall. And then here is a path. Everything obviously will be accessible, ADA accessible. This is important for all of us in Concord, but also especially for the people who live here, who want to go and reflect and walk with their families. So here is this, the main path. And I'm not sure exactly how Grantham and the CHDC will connect the people who live here onto this path. I suspect there will be a gate somewhere here and they will enter the park, the path area there.
No,
then we get in.
Carlene, Grantham, they don't want any connections. They want people to use existing sidewalks that will follow the driveway and have the access from the Bruce Freeman. So their concern is that people will wander and would prefer to keep, to limit the connectivity to the facility itself.
That makes perfect sense, Marcia. Thank you for clarifying that. I will wipe that from my brain. So as we get over here, you see these are sort of barrier plants that will be planted to sort of encase this area. What we were hoping for here was some sort of amphitheater type area, hearkening back to Concord's, transcendentalist days, a lyceum type area where there could be public talks, book clubs, poetry readings. We envision this as the size could be anywhere from 20 to 60 around amphitheater, all ADA accessible. Some flat area up here with additional tables, places for people to picnic. And again, as we go around the main path, there is one unifying main path, as you see. Again, this would be a sort of reflection spot. One of these spots, we would like to have interpretive panels that talk about the Assabet River and its wild and scenic designation. This is an already existing beautiful sumac grove that will be preserved. It's very important to us to preserve this. And then these are little reflection spaces, places where we could have some seating. Again, you see that we're planning on planting some trees that will give some privacy, some space to reflect. The dark green all through here is essentially untouched. There's a beautiful tree growth in there. There's also an enormous number of invasives. So part of the plan for this is the complicated and expensive process of removing those invasives and allowing the mature tree growth that's there to flourish. Again, it comes out. So this is the entranceway that will go into again, it's very faint, but it's the entranceway that will go into the new facility. There would be a welcoming plaza here with kiosks that have rules and regulations. And of course, on both the parkland side and the meadow side, there would be numerous bike racks with the idea that people coming to and from on the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail would have a place to park their bikes. There is no intention to have bikes riding through this park. It's a place where you'll park your bike and walk into the park to have lunch, to sit, to listen to a talk, etc. So I can take questions about this scheme or just quickly go to the other as context, and then we can talk about both. Amy, what would be your preference?
Carlene, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you didn't mention the art aspect.
Oh, sorry. This is my darling, and I didn't mention it. Marcia, what is going on with me? I don't know if you can, they're a little hard to see in this one because they used to be black and now they're green, but do you see these little squares here that are tiny little squares? These are intended to be plinths. And on those plinths, plinths, PLINTHS. And on these plinths, we will install public art. The idea is that this space will also be a natural gallery space. The gallery space will honor and represent our incredible, thriving artistic community in West Concord. And our intention is that there'll be a sort of evolving exhibit space. There could be some that stay and that are permanent, but our goal also is to have new exhibits come in. A second idea for the use of the plinths, and the library has talked to us about this, is to have a story walk. So not permanent, but that there would be something specifically developed for children, so that there would be stations where children would go through and learn about the site or whatever the story walk is about. I believe at this count, there are 9 plinths across both areas, the meadow and the parkland. This was an important part of what we wanted to do because, again, we believe in public art, but also we have such an enormous and thriving artist community here that we wanted to give them a space to show their creations. I see a hand up. So Amy, how do you want me to handle? I see a hand up. I don't know if you want me to blaze to the second or take questions.
Yeah, maybe let's take a couple questions. We'll be speedy and then move on to the second in case there are any questions or clarifications on this one or the broader context. Does that sound okay to folks?
That sounds great to me. Deborah, I see your hand up if it's okay for me to just call on you.
Yeah, thank you. Will you need to have any changes made to the rail trail so that the folks can kind of get off and come back on?
I'm going to let Marcia handle that question.
There wouldn't need to be any changes to the rail trail itself. Where it connects would be the responsibility of our designer to create that connection or that connectivity. But the rail trail itself there may be some grade changes and some grading that would be needed, but it should not impact anything with the rail trail itself.
Thank you, Deborah. Jeffrey?
Yeah, could you just repeat again the name of the developer for the ALF?
Places, all caps. Places, they're Littleton based.
What was Grantham?
Grantham is the company that will be developing a building and developing the 83 unit affordable assisted living facility.
And is Grantham?
Grantham.
Okay.
Amy, do you have your hand up?
I do. I had one question, and I'm sorry if I missed this. The path that winds through connecting the two parcels,
Yes.
is that, I was just curious, is the intention that that's going to be paved, or is that crushed stone, or what is the vision?
We are originally we thought that was going to be paved, but now we're looking at other, the landscape architect has recently discovered a pervious text structure that is similar to what is at Walden, if you've been there to walk on the new paths there. And it has the effect of crushed stone, but it's 100% accessible and passable by people of all mobility levels. And so he's investigating what that would be. So it could be asphalt, but we're looking at options.
Thanks. Good to know.
One other thing I want to mention, folks, is that you see the dark green is the area, as I said, one of our committee members, Krista Collins, talks about this as a sort of savanna environment, right? Where you have mature trees and sort of undergrowth. The light green, it would be a combination. It could be lawn, but it would be a lawn that is walkable. It could be walkable ground cover or a lawn micro clover mix that is pollinator friendly. We are cognizant of not having high grass right at the edge of the paths because we don't want a tick, a tick habitat. But the idea is again, we are trying to increase the area for where pollinators would be. And so any ground cover or lawn, not a lawn like you have out on your front yard, but again, it would be a micro clover, hardy, robust lawn mix that would have, low dense growth. Again, that would encourage pollination. I don't see any other hands yet. So I'm gonna pull this down.
Oh, we have one more question from Susan.
Hi, Carlene.
Hi.
I was wondering what the stripe is on the meadow triangle that kind of like seems to be adjacent to the street. I was wondering if that is a fence or trees being planted or what that is.
Let me pull it back up. Susan, and we can talk about it. The stripe, you mean this?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This will be Marcia, if you could correct me, this is a low wall, is that right?
I think it's the existing stone wall.
It's
there
the
is an
existing
granite
low,
wall.
yeah. It's really old, sort of gray, I guess, granite type wall that's already there. And so they just drew it in.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So with that, now let me pull that one down and pull the other one up and share that with you. Here we go. And it should be coming in now. So this is very similar. Everything is similar. There are a couple of significant changes. One is on the other plan, the sort of entry, circular brick or paver entrances on this side. Now it's over here. We still have, it was very important to us to have two spaces for different themed interpretive panels. Just to remind you again, those are to be about the reformatory and also the Civil War mustering site. So, and then here we only have one little reflection space in addition to those. So again, there would be seating here. It's very shaded. And the idea is for any of us to go there, but also we hope to provide a safe and quiet place if someone wants to take an elder from one of these facilities and go over and have a sit, as one of our committee members Sue Felshen puts it. Again, you see the pollinator meadow. And again, you see the mature trees that are built into the plan for shade and beauty. Here is again the path. This path will be designated with a split rail fence all the way through. It will not be a fence of chain link and barbed wire. It will be a pleasant split rail fence because we don't want people getting off and wandering, as Marcia mentioned. They shouldn't be wandering onto the facility, and they certainly shouldn't be wandering into anywhere near the MCI property. So a split rail fence will keep people on the path over to this area. Again, we have some barrier trees that will provide some, sort of a visual barrier to what's around this area. This is very this is the idea of the amphitheater is still there, but this is a very different, design. In this area already is I constantly have the wrong word. Recessed. I keep wanting to say depression, and I'm like, no, that's not the right word. A recessed. It's already recessed. It already has a slope and a lower area. So what we would do is build a short seating wall, 2 feet 6 inches tall around. There would be a natural slope. There's already a natural slope that would likely be covered with something like juniper. And we have space here for tables, picnic tables. Again, a place for people to gather to perhaps perform, but a less sort of, a less formal sitting space in this area. Again, you see the plinths. I think they have remained black here, but they are green over here, again, for a total of 9. We have an overlook here. Again, the same sort of protection and continuation of the beautiful mature tree growth. Once again, we will not get rid of the sumac grove, which is just so beautiful. Couple of reflection spots, again, an overlook here, and more and this one has a greater sort of clustering. This is a particularly stunning spot. There's a grove of very mature pine trees in this area. It's very shady. It's particularly beautiful. So the idea of having sort of a clustered display of art here is very appealing to us. Again, we come down onto the path, and then once again, we have this area where there are bike racks, a kiosk with rules, and what this park is. And again, it's not shown on this side, but there would be bike paths on this side as well. So the plans aren't terribly different, but I think this area is what shows it as this is the sort of prominent distinction. Ann Sussman.
Oh, okay. So I think this is a better plan. I think this is excellent. You've done an excellent job, Carlene. I remember, I think over a year ago, we went on a little hike here, and it was really exciting. It's incredible what you're doing. And it's so important because I think, with the rail trail opening the bridge, there are going to be so many more people. And this is one more thing for them to do, it's just fantastic. And what's great too, like all great art, it brings people of all ages, 8-year-olds, 80-year-olds will have something to do together, without being in a car. It's just awesome what you guys have done. I will put on my professional hat here. I do teach at the Architecture College in Boston. And what we talk about these days, because we're in a new age of biology, is how human subliminal behavior directs us. We're animals, and our animal nature unconsciously directs where we walk. Without conscious awareness, we always look for edge conditions. Okay, so the more you can define your edge conditions, like in the drawing here, you're going to see the driveway. You see the snaky little driveway there that's going as an S? If you could put trees that shield people, they will subliminally feel instantly more comfortable. In addition, if you could put trees so that they don't see the parking lot, they will subliminally feel more like they're in a place of, amazing nature. Okay, so this idea up at the top here, where you have these little trees that look like stars, green trees here, where they're all, that's great. That's super. You really want edge conditions like that. One of the things we do with my students is we compare the Tuileries Garden in Paris, one of the most famous parks in the world, with the new Greenway in Boston. One of the reasons Paris is so much more successful than the Greenway is because the Paris park has consistent edge conditions marked by really deep trees and with bushes that go all the way down. And where do people hang out? Right at the edge of the bushes, right by the benches, by the trees. It doesn't matter if you speak French or English. It's your animal nature to protect your back. So, I mean, that's the issue I see here, is that it's not quite protected enough, because you want to tell people they're in this incredible Assabet River, amazing nature preserve, right? So they need to feel protected. When you start getting into this, you realize we are animals, and our subliminal nature to protect us, to keep us safe, directs us more than we realize.
Okay, thank you so much, Anne. I've taken all of that down.
But so this is better than the other one, because it's a little simpler and more coherent, I think.
Okay.
Well, that's what you want. And if you'd like, I'd be happy to give a lecture to show you this. Once you see it, it's like looking through a microscope. You'll suddenly see people differently.
Okay.
A lot of the times in Boston, where they put up new benches in Boston, they don't realize how people work. So people can't subliminally feel comfortable in the benches because their back isn't protected.
Yes, I understand that. Thank you so much. This is really great testimony. Thank you. Amy Robinson.
Hi, thanks. I had a quick question about the kiosk. I think on both of them, actually, you mentioned the kiosk would be at what is on the diagram, the lower of the two entry exit points. How did you pick that? And like, if that's the only place where there's going to be like park rules and stuff, do we have a sense that like more people will enter there, or if people are coming in the other direction, then they would not see that until they're exiting?
Amy, I should have made it clear that I think that there will be some sort of kiosk at both entrances, at the one at the top and the one at the bottom. And I can share this with you after tomorrow, we have a fairly significant sort of PowerPoint presentation that shows a variety of kiosks, and there's some that are like really elaborate and some that aren't so elaborate, but we will have a combination of something along those lines on both, I'm sure.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Amy.
Hi. So I had one question. I've noticed people next to Neshoba, throwing their like fishing, throwing their lines in off the little fence, down into the river. I don't know that there's much to catch. Others may know more, but since it seems like an activity people enjoy there, I wonder, if the edge conditions are appropriate to allow that kind of access to the river, or if that's something you thought about, or this is just not the right location for it. Just curious.
Amy, I too feel very strongly about having sort of like Gary Kleiman and I had this great, sort of plan to create little docks, fishing docks all through the village. And Marcia knows that one of my great goals is to get people to understand that the river is right there and it's so beautiful and it's such an incredible access point. Marcia feels the same, and we very much explored this as an opportunity to create even like a landing for people canoeing down the river to stop and get out and come up. But Bill Murray, the landscape architect who we're working with, did all of the measurements and all of the sort of groundwork to determine that this is just too steep to safely bring people up off the river here. And really the next stop on the river is the new sort of parkland behind what was the Citizens Bank. It's now the Chase Bank. There's a place there you can pull your canoe off, but this is just, though we wanted so much to make it part of this plan, it's just not going to work in this space.
Understood. Thanks.
Other thoughts or questions from the group? I'd love to know if this is something you feel like you can support as an amenity, an additional amenity on the edge of the village.
Carlene, did you say Bill Murray is the name of the architect?
I know, it's a little joke that we all
Does he have any advice on gophers? Who gets the joke? I don't know.
He does have, of course, we all get the joke. He does have a quirky sense of humor, but he is not that Bill Murray. Who was that? John speaking? Yeah.
Yes.
Carlene, can I ask you to either, if you haven't already, can you send me or post copies of these so I can use them in the minutes as we're?
Yes, I will. They are posted on our website. And I can send you that link, but I will also send you, I can also send you these renderings if you'd like.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure.
If you want to, we could put a little scribble on where I think you should look at edge conditions, because like that driveway, I think is a problem. It's going to be scary.
This driveway,
and
Anne?
that driveway right there, right? And that's going to make it, it's going to take away. Whereas if you do good plantings of bushes, it will totally change the feeling of entry.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, we can't do, this is sort of wetland down here. So we can't really touch.
I'm not sure why, maybe you can't do it then, but maybe you could do it.
We can't touch this, but up in this area.
That would be huge. If you continue that, or it could be different kinds. It doesn't have to be one thing. I'm not a plant person.
Right.
It would remember, people make decisions in fractions of a second.
Absolutely. And the reason that I'm not sort of thunderously responding to you is that I don't know what's here. There's a lot here already.
It might be enough. It might be
part
enough
of what,
yeah.
Right. Part of what you're asking for very likely may already be there. I mean, you cannot see through this sumac grove. And
so I think you may be right. It may already be there, but it is something to really consider. So
absolutely. And so if you look at it, we can't touch this because it's wetlands, but
right.
Then here's the path. This is a very big area. Then all of a sudden we're planting these border trees here to exactly to your point. No one's back.
That edge condition, or people won't, their brain won't let them go there.
Right. And then this is all pretty thickly populated with mature trees, and no one's going to be wandering over here. It's just this sort of buffer while they're over here.
So maybe it's all,
and then we've already done that here. So I didn't want to respond, definitively.
But it may be fine, the existing.
But I think it's already in place. I think your plan is already in place.
Right.
Did you have a point, Marcia?
Yes, I do. We don't have the landscape plan for Christopher Heights. There is an associated landscape plan. So at some point, after we have a direction for which is the preferred option, I think we'll take a look at what the landscape plan is for Christopher Heights and add to our plan for this Junction Village open space to complement and to expand on what Anne has suggested.
That sounds great, because people just want to feel subliminal. They don't even realize it's in them.
I get that.
Subliminally, they want to feel protected.
I get that, Anne.
Yes, as a mom, you should.
Carlene or Marcia, I'm wondering if you could speak to the timeline. Is there clarity on that for?
No, the timeline for what? For this project, we don't even have a full estimate yet, and it's going to be done probably in phases. The first piece will be addressing the invasives and getting that under control, removing as much as we can, and then addressing it over several years. So this year was I put in an application on behalf of the Junction Village Open Space Task Force and the Concord Housing Development Corporation to seek $300,000 from the CPA, just so that we can get things started. So that we're going to see once we decide what's going to happen here, does that give us a path? Does that provide us with a plaza? What are the elements? And then after we finalize the design, we'll have more information about how it will be phased. The hope is that when Christopher Heights starts construction, and we're anticipating that to be sometime in 2022, that we can begin the invasive species removal. So that might also be happening in 2022. And then it'll take maybe another 5 years to fully build out this open space as funding becomes available.
Right. We have to do it in phases. As Marcia said, we have 25,000 in kind from Grantham. That's not that much in terms of a project like this, but most of that will go toward invasives removal. The first ask for this year to town meeting, to CPC will be 300,000. But it'll be a
And-
multi-year phased plan. So, and as Marcia said, this will take a while for fruition.
Now, can I ask when that's happening and when the assisted living facility is being built? Are there going to be like construction vehicles and things like that accessing that plot of land or that site through the rail trail, or will it get there some other way?
They'll either be using the service road that is associated with MCI Concord off of Commonwealth Ave, or they'll be coming in from Route 2, where it used to be Elm Place was a little street off of Route 2 on the easterly side of MCI's.
And so help us understand, the letter of support you're looking for is for the CPC?
Yes, just well,
Okay.
and I can send these references to you, but just we all looked at the Concord 2030, bridge to, what is it? Envision Concord.
Vision Concord.
Yeah, one of the tenets of that, one of the big ideas is to create more open space, more places for people to gather in these sorts of areas, walkable areas, things that will support both tourism, but the village businesses, artist communities. So we see this as just the sort of perfect manifestation of that. So what we would love from you is just a sort of like a here, like a vote of support in at least the sort of concept of this. Marcia, how specific for this application that we've put in? I guess I'm not entirely clear how specific a letter of support should be from a group like the WCAC.
Well, I think the WCAC needs to go back to its charge to say, okay, what are we commenting on? And then how this might impact whatever is part of your charge. And I think that's the West Concord Village and West Concord Junction itself. So from that perspective, as Carleen has suggested, that it could help support the artist community, it gives people a place to walk. It becomes part of the fabric of open space that serves West Concord.
One other constituency I neglected to mention is that we very much want to make sure that those people who are coming in off the train often to visit their loved ones in the correctional institute, that this will be made that this is a place to sort of stop. We often see young women pushing baby carriages and bringing their children to that site, and we really very much want to make sure that this is somehow the existence of this gets across to that population as well, as a safe place to stop on the way to the Correctional Institute. Part of this is to honor this Correctional Institute as something that's been important to our community, not to, I know there are barrier trees here, but that's just, for the scenic aspect. We want to honor and incorporate the idea that this is an important feature in West Concord.
That's really helpful. And by when does the CPC need that letter? When in November? Do we know?
The presentation to the CPC will be on November 9th. They will hold their public meeting, I think November 30th or December 1st, I'm not sure which. It's posted on their webpage. And so anytime before they take their vote, so it's sometime in November and probably before Thanksgiving would be ideal.
Okay, so if we were to draft a letter and then approve it at our November meeting, that could be one approach.
That would give you plenty of time, yes.
Okay, what do folks think about that as an approach? And my hunch is that what would be useful at this point is, to Marcia's point and Carleen's point, rather, like, I think this is a project that is, going through a robust design process. You have plans for community involvement, the design will evolve. And so, as distinct from the letters we've written recently, this is about, support for the overall project as something, that this committee would perhaps want to see CPC funding support as an additional open space and an amenity for West Concord and for the community and its visitors more broadly, right? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Mhm.
So this is not a design review message. This is a you know, a committee, you know, supporting this initiative if we write this letter. You know, are there, you know, questions, concerns, feedback from the committee? Are we excited about this? I mean, and I have
Sure.
my thoughts. I'm happy to share them, but someone else should go first.
I'm excited. I like the amphitheater. I can't wait to go and read there or something. Carly and I gave you that, or I gave somebody that comment that the amphitheater just looks really cool, and
Yeah.
I hope that makes it into the final design.
There is some concern that the amphitheater is tucked in the back, and then would it actually be used? But my hope is, and there's an NRC consideration. So I too really love the amphitheater. I don't know if that's ultimately going to win out. I think people like, as Anne mentioned, the sort of, some people on my committee like the simpler version, but I just loved, and the ultimate hope is that our committee will eventually disband, but there becomes a programming committee for this site that looks at both the art exhibition and
Mhm.
perhaps like the Lyceum type public talk. I mean, it's a
Right.
real opportunity. So we'll
It's
see.
more of a
But I
value
agree
add
with
if it's
you.
a
Yeah.
if it's like it could be a venue, you know.
Well,
Right.
it's like a playground for all ages. It's great. I think it's just really great. And we need to get people out and walking more, you know. And this is a great thing. And it's accessible to so many different things. It's just great. It really fits with the Junction Cultural District status as well. I mean, it's just great. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you so much, you all.
I loved your notion of like our little emerald necklace of West Concord, and I think I think it's really true. I think a whole bunch of open space amenities have really emerged to in and around the village center, and I think it's really cool to have more destinations and more things to to pull you along that route toward the village, to more amenities beyond. I think it's really exciting. I think
Right.
we're
If
really
we look
lucky.
at them as connected, Amy, it could really be significant. They're not, islands. They really are. If we could connect them sort of conceptually, it would be very, very special.
It's really cool. And like spots for respite along the trail. I think like it's nice because there's a variety. They can have their own character and do their own thing. And it relieves the pressure for anyone to be, all things to all of us. I'm sorry, Jeff, you were going to say something, and I
was just going to say, I love the idea of the necklace and, programming that would allow people to, for some reason, to go touch all of them. I'm thinking of, scavenger hunt for the kids, or, we all do they all do the leaf identification, and maybe identifying, trees in each area that would draw people regularly through some planned effort so that they would see it as a necklace of connected places. I love that concept.
Yeah, and I think the attachment to the river, the fact is, if the three rivers weren't here, Concord wouldn't be here. And so when we forgot about the river in the 20th century, and now we're bringing it back. We're cleaning out the river. We're bringing us back to the beauty of the river, to the animals in the river. It's just really important. So people now have access to the river. It's great.
Yeah, and I like that you have a plan to show the history and kind of tell the story of this land and West Concord. I think, Concord Center and the surrounding area often they hog a lot of the stories of this area of, Massachusetts. And I feel like telling the story of West Concord helps people really remember it in a way that ordinarily maybe it would just like slip through their brain and they would just be imprinted with Concord. But now I think West Concord can be part of that story.
Yeah, it's distinct. Its history is distinct, and it's not all wrapped up in the revelation. There's it makes it a destination in a different way.
Mm-hmm. It's a working class history that we ignore, just like we ignored the indigenous people's history. And it's all of that. And I think you're right, though. You're absolutely right, Susan. Stories are everything. And we've got this great story to tell about everybody that made Concord possible that we formerly ignored when I was growing up, and so I think it's great. It's really great.
I think also like to add to that, I love that you're incorporating the interpretive signage, that you're incorporating the art. I think those are, a couple of things that I've really loved, along this stretch of the trail, and it also helps, connect it to the Bruce Freeman Trail in a way that I think will, pull people in.
It's also, my daughter went to one of the two preschools. She went to the Carousel preschool, and there's another preschool right next to the Harvey Wheeler Center, and they would go on walks often, and kind of sometimes sort of pathetic nature walks. But this would be it's very close, and on nice days, I could imagine those classes from those schools, going and really enjoying a space like that. It's very close to them and certainly walkable for 4 and 5-year-olds. And like they would go there and do like nature oriented or art oriented activities, and they could really like make good use of that space.
Amy, that is right in the front of my brain because my little one also went there, and also Minuteman Arc. I mean, there's when you think about it, and also Council for Aging, right, there's like all of these constituencies and the prison. So think about these sort of populations that, it's not just necessarily, runners or bikers on the trail that will stop and rest here. There are these sort of clusters of a little bit unlikely constituencies that could use this space. And so I agree with you.
I really like the inclusion of the visitors to the prison and the community that surrounds them. I think that's probably been ignored for many, many decades, tolerated, if not ignored for many decades. And as an inclusive nature that we try to be in West Concord, I think it's really important to acknowledge that population and include them.
This is all such good testimony. I'm writing down everything you're saying. Thank you, everybody.
So I'm using context clues. I'm concluding that that the group would like to write a letter of support to CPC. Do I have that right? Does anyone disagree? No one's opposed to. Okay, great. So what if we draft a letter, distribute before the next meeting, and then finalize it at our November meeting? Would be first Wednesday in November. So that sounds like it would be acceptable.
Absolutely.
In terms of timeline. Would anyone like to volunteer to write said letter?
I'll write it.
Thank you, Amy.
Do I have a page limit? Because I tend to be wordy, so like 1 page.
I think one.
Marcia,
My
is
hunch
it
is one
appropriate
page will
for
do
me
it.
to send Amy some of the language from the application so she has the context? And is that okay?
Yeah. No more than 2. No more than 2 pages, Amy.
You got it.
I'm smiling because the last time Amy wrote a letter, it was to Public Works, and they were like out fixing the problem the next day. It was amazing.
I won't have any contracts to quote or, duties to accuse someone of abdicating.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Is November 3rd, is that the November meeting? So before that date, that's our November meeting. Yeah, okay.
I think that's right. Let me look real fast. Yep, that's what I got.
Got it.
So I think we need to do an official motion to.
I don't think you need to do it tonight. You've asked Amy to do the draft, and then you can vote on it at your next meeting.
That sounds great.
Should this just be addressed to the CPC generally, or is there a person in particular? Just
the chair is Diane Proctor, Proctor. So I would address it to the chair.
Diane with 1 N, Marcia?
I'm pretty sure it's 1 N.
Okay. I can check that for you, Amy.
I'll find out. I'll find it on the website.
Okay. All right, all. Thank you again. Thank you again. It's so nice to be here. I feel like I'm coming home.
I know. Thanks for coming. It's good to see you. And thanks for all your work on this. It's really exciting.
Oh, my pleasure. All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Caroline. Thank you. All right. Okay. So next on our agenda is West Concord Junction Cultural District Committee map. Susan was going to share that with us.
Yes, absolutely. So let me just get this up in my Google Drive and then I will share in 1 second.
I know Anne's been letting us know this was coming. I know Anne was involved in the early stages of this effort.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of it and hopefully point your friends and family members to it as well when they come and visit. So let's see. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, so this is the official West Concord Junction Cultural District map. It's kind of hard. Let's see, I can zero in, I suppose, and then move it a little bit. So essentially, you can see there's a key on the right-hand side that identifies what each one of the numbers stands for, and then the number is placed approximately where that thing is in West Concord Junction. So some orienting points are like the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail sort of winds through here, this light green line, and there's a person on their bicycle riding on it. And then you've got the commuter rail kind of going through the center of everything. There's an ice cream cone where Reasons to Be Cheerful is, and a loaf of bread where the Neshoba Bakery is. We've also got Harvey Wheeler, and then the books designate the library. So these are just a few illustrations that help people understand what they're going to find in that numbered location. But this is the big format map that is going to go in, I think, a couple places, one being that sort of kiosk thing that is at the beginning of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail when you cross over, I guess it's, is it Commonwealth? When you're, yeah, so like when you're at that intersection for the 99 and you're crossing over to continue, I guess it's east on the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. But anyway, south, sorry. But there's a kiosk there that this big map is going to be displayed. And then I think there's a thought to also put one at the commuter rail station so that people getting off the train would be able to look at this and orient themselves. So that is Exhibit A. And let's see, got one more to show you. And that is the trifold of this, which there's a bunch of explanation about West Concord. Let me see if I can move this a little bit. Maybe not. Yeah. Explanation about West Concord and pictures. And some of this is pulled from our design guidelines preamble. So you might recognize some familiar phrases in here. But yeah, some great photos. And then the map is also contained within that trifold. So you'll probably see these getting displayed around at the different shops and restaurants in West Concord. And then also Marcia had said she would put some at the main Concord Welcome Center in Concord Center so that people could know that there's more things to see outside of what's available in Concord Center. And then you might notice that the brand symbol for West Concord Junction Cultural District is also prominently displayed on this trifold. It's the little commuter rail station with the tracks and some green space.
This is so exciting.
I know. It's awesome. So hats off to our sibling committee, the West Concord Junction Cultural District Committee, for collaborating to produce this. They hired a designer to do it, and I think it's really awesome.
Is it finalized?
I believe so. Yeah, we, because my fiance Ed is on that committee, we got a few of these brochures shipped to our house, and they arrived today, and we looked at them. So I think it is final. Yeah.
And we received the major shipment at the planning office yesterday.
Great.
So we've got
That's
them
good.
in
So
stock.
can we
need
go
the
pick them up at the mill? Can we go pick them up for the mill?
Certainly. You could take a carton. They haven't purchased all they wanted to have display racks or stands for different businesses, and they haven't selected those yet. So I'm going to be a little hold on to them tightly for a little bit to make sure that we have enough to go around, but definitely.
Yeah, because we have West Concord, we have the West Concord, October 23rd, we have our West Concord Discover Day.
Yeah.
And this would be so awesome at
Mhm.
Artscape in Bradford Mill, because we also have another opening of the door show. To be able to have it, it'd be so huge. Nobody would ever seen it here. You know, we've got about 200 people who work here. They've never seen this. So it'd be fascinating if we could get it by October 23rd.
Absolutely.
I can come by and pick it up if it's okay.
My office is open Monday through Thursday from 9 to 3 to the public. And then if you wanted to come outside of those hours, just give me a call.
Okay, that sounds, I think Tatiana would be so excited. She runs the mill. She'd love to be able to hand this out. So we could just take 50 of them, whatever you can give us.
Okay, fine.
Deb, did you have, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Amy.
Oh, I was just seeing another hand up, but go ahead.
I was gonna say, can I get a PDF of this to include in the minutes?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll send that right over to you.
Thanks.
A PDF would be awesome, because then we can put that on our Facebook pages and stuff. That'd be awesome.
Oh,
If you-
yeah, good idea.
If you could
Yeah.
circulate, yeah, maybe if you wouldn't mind just sending it around to the committee. I wonder, you know, if someone.
PDF would be so exciting. This is great. Guys, this is great. This is
Yeah.
incredible. This is so awesome. Marcia, awesome.
It's,
Love the map.
And if you'll notice on the brochure itself, there's a QR code. That should give you information to, or maybe it's not on the map, maybe.
It's, yes.
There it is.
Yeah.
The Visit Concord website has added a West Concord page to it. So you should be able to find that information, and we'll be getting this information up. And then there's other things that are going on in West Concord that will also be displayed on that Visit Concord site. So
Yeah.
we're working toward getting you recognized.
Yeah.
This is
From-
so
That's great.
exciting. So
From what I
send us
heard, the
PDF.
QR code does not lead to the finished West Concord page just yet. So I don't know what you may see when you use the QR code, but it's not the finalized thing that is going to ultimately be there. I think they need to they have to publish the page and make some changes to it, is what I heard.
We're working on it.
Deb, did you have a comment, question?
Yeah, it's just really a comment. And I think you really answered it because there's a, excuse me, a QR code that will address any changes that happen. For example, you know, if there are more amenities that are available to visitors or even to residents like me that are still fairly new. For example, if we get, you know, bike cabbies, for example, you know, city bikes in the vernacular, you know, somebody that's visiting, I mean, that's something they'd want to know. But as long as you have a QR code, then that will take them to a page and the page will have information. So I think that's good.
Yeah, definitely.
Good point.
Oh. If you would allow me to share my screen, I can show you the web page.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I think I can do this.
FYI, right now it goes to page not found, the QR code.
Oh, really? Okay, well, maybe the QR code isn't working, but there's the West Concord page. Can you see that?
No.
Not yet.
we
But it
should-
says you
Oh,
started.
there it
there
is.
it is.
Yeah.
Are people seeing that? What's
Mhm.
in West Concord? There's the sign museum and events that are coming up. And then different places to visit.
Cool.
Cool.
So what I did is I went through the Visit Concord page. And at the very top, where it says visit, it lists different locations and there's West Concord. And so that's what I clicked on to come to at least this. So we're just beginning to get it populated.
Mhm.
But the goal is to add as we go along.
I like that it's right at the top.
Awesome. Yeah, me too.
So I will stop sharing and allow you to continue your meeting.
This is great. I wonder if someone has access to, easy access to a printer, if, they want to print a couple copies of the map to bring with us to our walkabout on Friday. That might be handy.
Yeah, we can get a map. We can do that.
I was going to say, I could
Map is
drop
maybe a
off
little
some, would you like me to drop off some brochures to one of you?
Ooh,
Yeah,
that
that'd
would
be
be
great.
amazing.
Okay.
You can drop it off at the mill because, or I
Okay.
can come get it at the mill and I'll just have them.
I could bring it and leave it with Tatiana.
Yeah,
I'll bring a
Tatiana.
box and then you can pick them up there.
That sounds perfect. She'll be right there.
Thank
I'll be
you.
by tomorrow, like 3:30-ish.
I can be there. I can try to be there.
Okay,
That sounds great. That sounds perfect. And then we can all have access to it. So we have the map. That sounds brilliant.
okay, will do.
And she'll be so excited because people are always asking her questions and now she can actually give them something.
This is really great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Deb, did you have another question or comment? No.
I did not. I don't know how to put the hand down. Maybe I
Oh,
just, oh,
I
here we
got
go. There you go. Okay.
Sorry, I just didn't want to miss you. Okay, so that's a good segue to confirming officially our plan for Friday. And let me, oh no, I closed that page. Darn it. Okay, I'm sorry, just a moment. I just want to confirm our rain date and I want to confirm what I proposed in our agenda so I don't confuse everybody. Or at least consciously change it if people need to. Okay. Sorry, guys. Okay, so we have our rescheduled walkabout looking at bike and pedestrian conditions in and around West Concord Junction with the aim of, finding perhaps some low-hanging fruit, some doable improvements that may be tackleable through grants or things like that, given that there's been a lot of changes and a lot of improvements in terms of open space and the rail trail coming through, and there may be some opportunities to make further improvements to help support those kinds of things and help make this area even more friendly for walking and biking, given that so many more of us are home and around and walking and biking during much of the day, let alone weekend activities. So that is what I understand to be our aim. And as Susan noted, we got rained out in our last effort. So we're scheduled for the 15th, this Friday, from 11 to 12:30 for a redo. Still sound good for folks? We've let our we've let a number of friends know, and we've posted that as our official site visit. And then I want to make sure we confirm a rain date this time, having failed to do that last time. And I was suggesting Monday, 10/18 from like 12:15 to 1:45. Does that broadly work for people if we need it to?
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's go with that. Hopefully we won't need it, but at least we'll have it on the books in case we need it.
And I had mentioned to you that I will try to attend, but I'm not guaranteed. I've got a meeting that runs into the middle of that walk.
And I think we had a quorum. If we can confirm, I can be there. Anne can be there. Susan, I think you said, and Amy can be there. Okay, and so that's 4 of us who can be there. Hopefully, we'll have more. And Jeff, if you want to, I don't know if you have my cell phone number, but feel free to give me a call if you're looking for where we are. My initial thought was that we'll keep our starting point, which was the kiosk. So Bruce Freeman Trail, just across Main Street from Junction Park. Seems like a good starting point. At the 99 just by the 99 intersection, for reference. And one of the things I was thinking maybe, we make our way along Main Street and Commonwealth Avenue, and then, talk as we go, and maybe go as far as, though that we may not make it all the way there in the hour and a half we have. I know these things tend to, they tend to move a little slowly because there's so much productive discussion going on during them. We talked about ending at the Bruce Freeman Trail crossing of Commonwealth Avenue. I think it would be at least useful to at least hit the turn on Commonwealth Avenue, even if we don't make it all the way down, to get a reminder of what the conditions are. There's been talk from this committee and at the Transportation Advisory Committee about, dreams of maybe one day, additional crosswalk on that end of the street. And I know there's been thinking about that intersection dating back to the West Concord Task Force, I believe. However, I know, someone noted for us, reminded us as a previous visitor to this committee, had talked about that bridge at Main Street over the Assabet is also, a concern for bikers. I'm seeing Susan nodding.
Oh my gosh, I was driving there and it was dark, and there was a family that were like on tricycles, walking with glow sticks, etc. And honestly, like they were in great peril of all the cars passing by because it's so narrow, that platform that you have to walk on as a pedestrian. Like I was very afraid for them. Anyway,
we should definitely note that, because there are a lot of conditions where it's simply really scary. We should note all of them, even if we can't do anything about it this year or next year. We should note it, because we're hurting ourselves if we don't.
And I know, my understanding is that one, that's on in the scale of easy to hard. That's a harder one, but I still think it's worth looking at, as part of this effort. So maybe we divert that way half a block or so.
I think we should. I think we should, yeah. We can talk about it when we're there. I do have one quick question. Was the Transportation Advisory Committee formed? Because I was contacted by the select board member and she was trying to form it, and I wasn't sure. Is it been formed?
I don't think they have found enough people who have submitted committee cards yet. So it has not yet been formed.
Yes, Terry Ackerman contacted me. So it hasn't been formed yet. Okay, because she was trying to get it up and running. Okay, because it'd be good to invite someone from there.
We did notify some people who were on the former version of the Transportation Advisory.
Like Phil Posner?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, because he knows a lot about this.
Yeah, Marcia, thank you, Marcia, for reaching out to folks. Phil, and I'm blanking on, there was another person as well who responded, and they had notified some additional people that this was taking place. So hopefully we'll get at least some of that crew on Friday. It would be great. And if not, we'll continue to hear from folks after. We can reach out to people after too. Anything else on logistics we need to think about?
I think I know the answer to this, because we can't just keep adding sections to the route. But one thing to consider too is if you go up Main Street and then down Church Street by the daycare, they're obviously like things to consider about the daycare there and all the kids, and that intersection of Main Street and Church Street, which is can be challenging sometimes. So that's, if we were going to add something, I think we should think about adding that to the route.
I think that's a really good idea. That's a really good idea.
One thing I was thinking about is that, I think a big part of our route is going to be reconstructed. And we've reviewed plans for that, and those are underway. So I imagine, we probably wouldn't spend a super ton of time on, that stretch of Commonwealth Avenue between, focusing on detailed discussion of that stretch of Commonwealth Avenue between Church Street and Bosbrook Road. As critical as that section is, a lot of changes are already underway. I printed a couple copies of the latest version I saw of the concept plan you know, as reference for us and for other people who may be less familiar with that project. Marcia, I reached out to Steve Dukran yesterday and he very quickly responded. I reached out again today, like, you know, the very end of the day with, you know, a couple additional questions. I don't know if you know if there have been substantive changes to the concept
No.
plan.
I haven't
okay.
seen anything since the last time you've looked at it.
Okay. So, you know, so we can share that with folks and there may be some more information that, you know, that we have on that project, before.
What's the project's name?
This is, I'm sorry, go ahead, Marcia.
But no, I just wanted to add though, that they are coordinating with Concord Municipal Light Plant about streetlights and electrical lines and with the Boston Gas to make sure that any improvements or anything that they needed to do to that gas pipeline that is in Commonwealth Ave will be taken care of as part of this project. So and it's just Commonwealth Ave improvements. I think that's the title of it.
Commonwealth Ave improvements. Okay.
I'm remembering it correctly.
It's coming out of the planning committee?
I'm sorry?
It's coming out of, who's
Oh.
in charge of this?
Concord Public Works Engineering Division.
Okay.
So they presented to us, oh goodness, in the summer.
Mhm.
And then we had sometime later in the summer, an update based on an update they had given at the Transportation Advisory Committee. And one good thing is there was a lot of concerns that the committee expressed about locations of crosswalks, and they were, you know, I think very responsive to that feedback. And so I, you know, that seemed like it was moving along in a good direction. And there will be some bump outs incorporated into that project. You know, so like, are folks familiar with those, like extensions of the sidewalk that go, you know, a little bit into the street, into the parking lane so that people are more visible as they're crossing? So it's a safer crossing environment, shorter distance. So that's a good thing too. And streets will become ADA, or sidewalks will be ADA compliant. I hadn't realized how sloped they were. And then my 4-year-old the other day was saying, why are the sidewalks so tilty? And I said, there's a project to fix that. So they'll be reconstructing sidewalks as well, some of the components of that. And replacing light fixtures, to me, the version I saw looked pretty sympathetic with what's there now, and you know, pedestrian friendly, not like giant highway type fixtures, since it, you know, it seems like the lighting is part of the character.
I think what we might, I don't mean to interrupt you, go on.
Go ahead.
No, I think what we might also look at really quickly is an idea of where we want the cultural district sign for the Junction Cultural District to be. So Concord Center has cultural district signs. Maynard has cultural district signs. Nantucket has cultural district signs. We don't have our cultural district signs. And so it's one thing to figure out what they're going to be, but another thing to have them and where we want them. Because there is an issue with signage clutter already in West Concord. And people don't know that it's 20 miles per hour on Commonwealth Ave in front of Deborah's. They don't know that because they can't find the sign. There's too much stuff around. But anyway, it's something we should consider. Where would they go? The one entering and the one leaving. Where would the cultural district, where is an ideal place to go? We don't have to perfectly, we're not going to set it in stone, but just as a thought. So we're all on the same page, looking at it, seeing where the clutter is, seeing where it might go.
And that's really in Billy Crosby's. He's been assigned that project. He's been given pictures. We've already been out there looking at different locations for it. So I think that's something that you don't need to do.
But we should consider it though, because often I can ask Billy. I live right next to him, right? I'll ask him where it was.
When he is ready to put it all together, I think we would come back to you and have that conversation.
But Marcia, it's not that we're going to say it. It's like we could intuit where they want to be, and then we'll see if we agree with Billy, or by vice versa. Because maybe we'll end up in the same place. I mean, Billy's a very intuitive guy. I know that. It might not be the right place, but I do know having the signs really matters, and we don't have them yet. You could ignore it, but it could be an idea of where we thought of, and he can ignore it, and it could be maybe wrong, but just to be interesting to think what we think.
I just think you have a lot on your plate for what you want to do on Friday. So I was just trying to pull back and say, let's look at the pedestrian.
I totally hear you, but I would argue that's one thing, because that makes a huge difference.
Okay, so okay, so let's make our focus bike ped conditions, but also be aware and mindful of other other things that merit attention and focus, and and might be topics we want to explore or coordinate with further with the cultural.
Or we could just throw an idea in. We could be wrong, but just what we think. I think signage is a huge issue, because right now the signs that are up, you just don't see them. You don't see the 20 mile per
Amy,
hour.
where did we end up on the idea of going up Main Street and down Church Street after all that?
I think, I mean, I would be game for, starting at the kiosk, going to Main Street, turning right, going that half a block to observe the, the bridge condition, and then turning back, going up Church to, I guess, Main again. Maybe, is that what you're thinking? The Main Street, Church and Main?
I guess that doesn't matter which, Church and Main, that area.
To the library, essentially?
That we, that whole intersection, and probably Church Street and Main Street, the triangle that goes, if you were to go Commonwealth up Church, down Main, back down Commonwealth.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
Well, I think we can decide it when we go, but I think we should go up there. We should go, because a lot of kids are coming down from there. A lot of people are going to the library. It's part of the cultural district. We should definitely go up there.
I think that's a good
idea. There's 2 churches
idea.
and a library, and also 2 daycares, like
Yeah.
all in that little path. So,
and I know this, and this is probably like below the scale of effort, but I was at Porch Fest and watched someone like disappear into like a hole next to a manhole cover. Like as they trip trying to walk across that intersection. So maybe they're even very near-term things that we can like just ping someone about. That was an exaggeration. They didn't disappear. They just tripped dramatically as like their foot and ankle and shin disappeared into the table. So so yeah, I think that's a really good idea. And we can, pin down the specifics.
Okay.
Any other big logistical comments? No? Okay. I'm excited for our walk. I'm going to pause for a guest appearance and a hug. Hi. Okay. Good night. You want to say hi? Hi. Okay. And then our next agenda item is just liaison reports. Any liaison reports?
Mine is quick because we well, actually I took notes even, but they're very brief because basically they the Economic Vitality Committee did convene, but they ended up just kind of briefly mentioning a few things. So actually somebody else go, because I lost my notes. They'll come back to me in a minute.
Did you want me to introduce myself, Amy? I know we talked a little bit via email.
I realized we should have gone to you first, so I'm sorry. Thank you, Deb. Is it Deb or Deborah? Do you prefer?
You can call me whatever you'd like.
Okay.
Debbie is easy. If you are very concerned, you can call me Deborah, because that's what my mom called me and definitely got my attention. So just by way of background, I am relatively new to the area. And so when you guys were saying, oh, we're going to meet here and there, I've been here 4 months and my brain is like, okay, I know where the rail trail is. I know where Neshoba Bakery is. I know where, obviously the main street there, Commonwealth, but I have no idea where you're going to meet. So it just gives you a sense, I'm still a little bit new. I actually grew up in the Sherborne area, if you guys are familiar with Sherborne, but then I lived in New Jersey most of my adult years and recently moved back after all my 4 children were raised. And I have my own business here in risk management. but I am a biker. And so one of the first things I did is I joined a bunch of bike clubs and really wanted to be involved. And the next thing I knew, there happened to be an opportunity to be of assistance on the Rail Trail Advisory Committee. And so I'm really happy to be the liaison from the Rail Trail Advisory Committee to this group. I also did join the Friends of the Freeman. And so if you guys are familiar with the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Advisory Committee, I know Marcia's here, so it's likely that you are, but I'm delighted to be here because selfishly, I'm now going to learn more faster than I would have otherwise about West Concord. So I'm delighted to be here.
Welcome.
We're delighted to have you as a resource, so thank you. So in terms of meeting spot for Friday, if you do want to join us, just so we're not like too hard to to find. So that intersection where West Concord Pharmacy is and the 7-Eleven is, and Woods Hill Table is, and Junction Park you may be familiar with, where the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail crosses Main Street.
Yep.
Just on the, I'm sorry, what was it, Marcia, the south side? Did you without a map? Yeah, just on the south side of Main Street, there's a kiosk that you can see from Main Street, and we thought that would be a good meeting spot for us.
So is south.
So if you're at the 7-Eleven and you go to the rail trail and cross the street, you'll be in the right place. And there's a bike repair station right there.
Okay,
Right.
so not on that other side of the rail trail, but closer to the 7-Eleven. Okay, great, perfect. Thank you so much.
So we were going to talk also about the new trail they did on the Rifle Range Trail that they just opened up.
Sure.
And that's really cool. So the Rifle Range Trail is across the street from the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. And the trail committee, for the first time, it's amazing what they did. They expanded the trail so you can go right up the hill. So the rifle range was built before World War I, and people used to have no trees, but you could see why they built a rifle range there, because it was just too much of a grade change. It's kind of a little mountainous area. And now you can go up the mountain and down. It's a fantastic walking, and it makes that rifle range trail better to walk. It got too congested with just one path along where the marsh was. So it's really great. It just opened like about a week ago. And it's not on the map yet. The town doesn't have a map yet of it up, but it's really exciting to go see it. And so now when you go to the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, you have another trail to go up, and it's great to take with kids. It's not really bikeable, but it's definitely walkable.
That's a great update. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to just ask, accessible from that road, from that parking lot across from where the Bruce Freeman Trail is, or is it the other end?
No, it's there. So is a parking lot where they have these new signs that say "Do not park here" for the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. That's the Rifle Range Trail right there. And then now they have this great new path in it that was so exciting to see what they did. And it's not that long, maybe it's a half mile, but it's really cool to go all the way up the hill and down. And in the fall, you'll be able to get a view kind of a high point in West Concord looking out. It's really cool.
That's great. And great to know. I did that trail maybe a year ago, and it was rather precarious with my little guys. So that's good to know there's a new one to audition.
No, this would work with little kids. They'll love it. They'll love going up the grade, and it's definitely doable even with a 4-year-old.
That's great. And there's a great update. And Debbie, thank you for being willing to be our liaison and keep us in the loop on all things BFRT. We're excited to have that connection.
I'm happy to be here.
Any other, John, I don't know if you wanted to chime back in on the Economic Vitality Committee, or if there are other liaison reports.
Yeah, I'll chime in. I just had a baby duty for a second. 1 second. I just got to go back to my notes. So it was pretty brief because they convened for about 5 minutes. They just mentioned a few things that tourists are increasing in Concord Center and increasing revenue there. They named a certain bus company called Trafalgar that you may have seen around. They were just kind of appreciating that, and then they were talking about the fact that they think there's been pent-up demand from COVID, but then they adjourned early because they didn't have a quorum and rescheduled for 2 weeks out. And I actually don't see that on the agendas yet, the new meeting time. So that was it for Economic Vitality Committee. Yep.
I don't have an update because the Trails Committee canceled their meeting.
I attended West Concord Junction Cultural District Committee, the meeting after Porch Fest, and they were just saying that Porch Fest went extremely well, which I also observed because I was there also. And let's see, they mentioned that, I think we talked about this, October 23rd is Discover West Concord Day. And from what I remember, I think that is just like all the different shops and restaurants and art venues and whatnot just kind of have like a celebratory open house type feeling to them. I don't know that there's anything that our committee needs to do related to Discover West Concord Day, but it's a great day to walk around down there.
Go spend money.
Yes,
patronize local
exactly.
businesses.
Exactly.
And
And
then
then one other, I ended up attending a planning board meeting because I was assigned to do that on September 14th. And it was interesting because they were talking about the 365 Com Ave 2-house, planned residential development. And they ended up having quite a lot of questions about the landscaping, which hadn't really been planned yet for that 2-house situation. But I think they ultimately decided that they wanted to see something that was more built out in terms of landscaping, just because the houses were so close to the road and it was also an entryway to West Concord, and they didn't want to make it look like it was like, a bunch of gravel and 2 houses or something like that. So I don't know if other things have happened with that conversation since then, but I just remember kind of taking note of that.
Thank you for that update. All right. Any other liaison updates, or we can move to public comment?
My only other update, it's not really a liaison, is we had the door show. There was Go Outdoors, and they had that Go Outdoors West Concord last summer at the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. And so we're going to be having that around the Bradford Mill. We hope to have it open next week. We'll have 10 doors made by people aged 8 to 80 up around the mill, and it should be fun. And I'll send an email when we have our opening. It's pretty fun what people did. And it was great. The West Concord Green Thumbs did it. The new business that's here that does children's books, Barefoot Books, did one. It's pretty exciting to see the range. People ask people to paint a door and they all do it. It was pretty strange.
That's great.
So I'll send you the opening. We hope to have them all up by the 23rd. You'll be amazed. Your kids would really like them. I think your kids will find them a lot of fun.
Very cool. All right. Okay, any public comments? No. Hearing none. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right.